Welcome to Biomutant.
I'm Stove, your 5-foot-tall love doll. Welcome to Short Takes, middling reviews from below-average dudes. On this episode, we're going to be going over the new furry simulator Biomutant, a post-apocalyptic kung fu RPG, something along the lines of Kung Fu Panda and Fallout, except Master Oogway gave Poe a gun. So let's pull apart these fuzzy little butt cheeks and dive right into the action. Biomutant was developed by Experiment 101, a very, very small team based out of Stockholm, Sweden. A 20-man dude pile under the very capable gamer toes of a Stefan Lundqvist, whose Swedish Eagle Scout sash includes badges such as Art and Game Director of the amazing Mad Max game and Hit or Miss Just Cause series. However, looks like Biomutant is Experiment 101's origin story. One last note about Experiment 101, they are allowing free use of Biomutant's soundtrack, so if you're a content creator of any kind, you don't have to worry about getting DMCA blasted in the butthole, which is pretty nice. Biomutant is published by THQ Nordic, the fellas behind the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom remake, the Destroy All Humans remake, the newer Darksiders games, and one of my personal favorites, the MX vs. ATV series. But let's get into what FurFest 2021 is actually about and how I feel about it. Much like every game that's ever existed, Biomutant has several difficulty options: easy, medium, hard, and extreme. For the purposes of this video and while we're streaming Biomutant, I'm going to be playing on extreme because I hate myself and demand to suffer.
Encode your DNA.
Biomutant has a multitude of fursuit flavors you can don. So let's go over the 6 crusty little critters you can start the game out as. Starting off with the Primal, the dude of all moods, the anime protagonist, the man on the box art. Fairly well-rounded, he can fit most classes pretty well. Moving on to the Dum-Don, this little friend has a higher energy capacity and a higher melee damage rating, but lower energy regen speed than the Primal. Rex, objectively the most attractive member of the Backstreet Boys, has higher health and energy regen, but lower crit chance than the rest. Hyla, and no, I do not mean the same guy from Agretsuko, I mean this one, the one that looks like he's about to steal all your lunch money, has higher health and armor, but lower energy than the rest. And then we have the Fip. Higher psi power, energy, and energy regen up, but lower crit chance, and you look like this. Mr. Myrtle got the long dong of the law on pretty much every single stat except for luck, so that's neat. What's cool about the character creator for Biomutant is you can pretty much use whichever race you want for whichever class you want, because you can change the stats later through leveling up. Everybody can do everything! It's wonderful! Like any professional grade fursuit, this one comes custom fit and already smelling a little bit like piss. After selecting your suspiciously sticky species, you get to further alter your appearance by moving this ball around this bigger ball. But watch out! It does also change your stats on the right here.
Choose a genetic resilience.
Once you've got your measurements sorted out, it's time to move on to your genetic resiliences. And Biomutant is of course continuing to be on brand with its obsession with customization balls. Your resistances can be visualized by the changing RGB lights on your Corsair Gamer Pro arm. The resiliences are pretty self-explanatory. We've got heat, cold, radioactivity, and biohazard. These resistances can also be upgraded using their own special type of currency, I guess, but we'll go over that later.
Choose your first style.
But for now, it's time to bust out your 64-color Crayola crayon box and get to work. There weren't a crazy amount of fur patterns for your disgusting Muppet to select from, but I felt like it was enough for it to at least be satisfying.
Pick your main color.
Biomutant's character creator does give you every imaginable color from the Pride flag to play with for both your primary and secondary fur colors. Experiment 101 really went out of their way to let you mix and match to your heart's content, which was absolutely a mistake. And just like every RPG that's ever been made ever, there is a class system, so let's go over it. Right off the comically oversized bat, we've got the Mercenary, a class that dual wields melee weapons and deals increased melee damage. Up next, and my personal favorite, is the Deadeye, a nice in-between for a melee and ranged class. Your ranged weapons will reload instantly and do extra damage after a reload. Much like choosing not to wear underwear and trusting a fart, if you play the Commando class, you are taking a risk. While he does have increased range damage, he has lower armor than every other class. It's also worth noting that the Commando is a pre-order bonus or DLC that you can purchase after buying the game. Choosing the Psy-Freak grants you a free power in the way of the Spark Ball, a zippy-zappy little ball of electricity you can yeet at your enemies. You also get the Mega Mind perk, which increases your ki or energy regen by 20%. Basically Gandalf, but with developmental issues. This Saboteur, much like the Mercenary, is a dual-wielding melee class with the added benefit of being able to dodge at a lower ki cost. Last, and I assure you least, the Sentinel. His only defining ability is that he starts with a two-handed weapon and has higher armor. That's it. With character creation done and our horrible monstrosity before us, it's time to get started on the game. To try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible, I'm only going to show you guys the opening bits of the game, just in case you haven't played it yet or if you're looking to start it soon yourself. The first thing you do in Biomutant is select your alignment, light or dark. One side has the power of God and anime on their side, and the other huffs peyote out of a shoe they found at a music festival.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm the dark side of you. Your inner voice, to be precise.
Gameplay-wise, it doesn't really matter which way you swing on the karma spectrum. There are some dialogue options that are only available to you depending on how far light or dark leaning you are, and you can only unlock some powers after meeting a certain light or dark requirement. For my time in Biomutant, it doesn't seem necessarily good or bad to heavily swing one way or the other, and the game does put a heavy emphasis on karmic balance. You can be a karmic bisexual the entire game, and it really won't make too much of a difference. Once you're done dealing with the domestic abuse dragons living inside your head, the game makes you play through the opening cinematic with a few changes.
Why are you running?
So long, Bowser!
And then you get to level up. Your character stats in Biomutant are pretty easy to follow. Like I said during character creation, all of these things can be individually upgraded as you gain levels. Another thing you can get for leveling up are these little dog biscuits. You can use these things to grab perks from other classes or to unlock new abilities to send your foes to the ICU. As I said before, you're also able to upgrade your resistances. Now to do that, you're going to have to get a pile of these booger bucks from specific enemies all around the world. That, or loot them from specific chests. And fellas, I hear ya.
What enemies drop them? What's the drop rate?
Shut up for 2 seconds, I'd tell ya. Said booger bucks drop exclusively from these horrible plant lizard hybrids called morks. And the drop rate is 100%, so each one will have at least one. You just gotta double booty fist it until something comes out. Speaking of solving all of our problems with violence, let's take a look at some of Biomutant's combat. The combat in Biomutant is solid enough in my opinion. Even on extreme difficulty, I don't find the enemies to be overly spoungy like some other games. The fast pace and melee and ranged attacks kind of flowing together keeps it varied enough for it to be fun. In short, it's enjoyable without having to reinvent the butt plug. But fear not, my 900 IQ gamer pals. Biomutant has puzzles. Granted, they are all easy baby puzzles for baby gamers. These are usually optional, but they do have either gear or lore stuff tied to them, which is neat.
There are few records of the chain of events that led to the big
Which brings us into our next little topic of conversation, the story of Biomutant. Basically, the gist of it is this giant mega corporation Toxinol dickoed the entire world into extinction. Now all the humans are dead, boy, gone, and all that's left are these nasty little monstrosities. Except for Elvis, who apparently turned into a ferret. The main goal of the game is to either save or destroy the Tree of Life at the center of the map. With a little help from your friends, you can take down the World Eaters that are posing the biggest threat to the World Tree. Or, alternatively, you could not my problem that bitch into the next dimension and watch everybody die. Also, just a fun little side note, all of the names for literally everything in Biomutant are completely bananas. Side note part 2, The Revenge, Return of the Side Note. The designs for the World Eaters are 100% certified sick nasty. A pretty good portion of Biomutant's story gets told through flashbacks. The flashbacks seem to come on during story-specific missions wherein they pull you into a gay fog. Most of the flashbacks I've seen in the game have all been greatest hits from That's What I Call Trauma, Getting Your Ass Beat edition.
Why you bully me?
Do I have to say it? It's not all bruised knees and chapped ass cheeks. You also get to do Tai Chi with your equally disgusting mother. You also get to toke galactically huge doinks with your grandfather.
Crystal fucking weed.
But then you have to catch Hopper from A Bug's Life before Unga Bunga burns the village down. And that's kind of the gist of what you can expect from Biomutant, but let's get to what this show is actually about and get to the review. Like I said during the intro, Experiment 101 is a 20-man team, and given that fact, it's honestly pretty impressive that the game runs and looks as good as it does. Biomutant isn't the best or worst open-world RPG of this style, and there's tons of them out there. You can definitely see where the team spent more time. As for what I think Biomutant does really well, it's beautiful, the world is gorgeous, you're gonna find yourself stopping and just kind of looking at the environments every once in a while. Gear and weapon customization is some of the best that I've seen on any more modern video game in a good minute. I know we didn't show off a whole lot of it, but at the time this is being uploaded, we are still playing through Biomutant over on Twitch, twitch.tv/G_stove. Go check it out, I shitpost over there too, it's great. Combat's easy enough to learn, but varied enough to be enjoyable. Like I said, a lot of the dialogue in the game is just straight bananas, and a lot of it is helped by the narration from David Shaw Parker. Personally, I really enjoy it, but I know the narration can be a bit much for some people, but thankfully there is an option to turn down the narration frequency in the accessibilities options. The spots where I think the game isn't as bright, there's a lot of jank in some of the animations. Like you'll notice there's not a whole lot of in-between action animations. There's quite a few bugs in combat and just navigation in general where you get stuck on geometry or enemies will be floating in the air. It's nothing game-breaking, at least that I've found, but it is there. And to add on to this point, Experiment 101 has already released a couple patches based on community feedback, which is great. The only other complaint that I have, and it's pretty minor, is just that the races seem pretty unvaried stat-wise. But in my opinion, I feel like Biomutant is a pretty enjoyable open-world RPG in a sea of open-world RPGs. It's not without its faults, but there's definitely enough there to keep me entertained anyway. I give Biomutant 7 out of 10 garlic breads. Definitely worth picking up if you can get it on sale for like 30-40 bucks. But all this was just my opinion, and I'm super easily entertained, so you might think something different, and it is important to have your own thoughts on things. This has been Short Takes. If you enjoyed this, let me know what you want me to cover in the comments, and make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to see more. Also check me out on Twitch and Twitter and all the other crap. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one.